Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Adam Burke from BangTheBook.com coming to you with my Monday MLB Monologue video. Take a look here today at the American League Central and the American League West. As I mentioned last week, doing this first Monday video, only had 5 Mondays left until the start of the Major League Baseball season. Was going to have to double up a couple of divisions. Well, here we are as we take a look at the AL Central and the AL West on today's video. Speaking of baseball, I'm going to start posting my baseball content over at BangTheBook.com here today, including 30 MLB season win total previews, one for each team. Got World Series futures, American League and National League pennant futures, division futures for all 6 divisions with suggested bets for all of those futures. Also AL/NL Cy Young, AL/NL MVP, and then the Home Run King odds as well. Also some important stats that I like to use for handicapping baseball, a lot of sabermetric stuff in that write-up, almost a glossary of sorts. So a lot of baseball content getting posted today over at BangTheBook.com. My MLB betting guide will also be available on BangTheBook.com as a full PDF, and then you can also get it as a Kindle ebook here later on in the week once we get all the formatting squared away with that. That's also when we'll post the PDF over at BangTheBook.com. So for right now, you're going to have to click through the site to go ahead and get all of that information that's out there, but I will be posting that later today here at BangTheBook.com. I have to do some final edits, some final transactional things, stuff like that, but we'll get that posted over there today. Also, bunch of conference tournaments coming your way here today at BangTheBook.com once odds are posted for all of those. So lots of good content coming your way today over at the website to go along with our daily stuff from Kyle Hunter, Parker Michaels, Alan Moody, Admir Aljic, Jonathan Willis, Corey Pabst, everybody doing a fantastic job covering everything for us over there. We also have golf, soccer, NASCAR, tennis, all kinds of stuff going on at the website. So please make sure you check that all out. Also, for those regular Bang the Book Radio listeners, Kyle Hunter will join me on Tuesday and Wednesday this week as we're hoping to get some more conference tournament odds by tomorrow. Brian Blessing will slot into his spot here on Monday today, then Kyle Hunter on Tuesday and Wednesday on Bang the Book Radio. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the American League Central Division here. We'll start in alphabetical order, as I did last week, with the Chicago White Sox here, 62-100 last year, but their season win total, expecting them to take a big leap here, sitting at 75.5 wins. I don't get the hype about this team. I really don't understand it. I haven't understood it from day one, and quite frankly, even if they got Manny Machado, they still weren't going to contend for the wild card or anything like that. You know, they go out and get John Jay and Yonder Alonso, trying to court Manny Machado. Didn't work out for them. Now, they did add Ivan Nova and Servin Irvin Santana in the rotation. Those are 2 guys I don't really expect a whole lot from this season. Would expect both of those guys to have a FIP over 4. You know, league average about 410, 415 in the FIP range. So maybe those guys wind up being average types of starters. I don't really see it. In fact, this entire starting rotation, well below average for me. Not a believer in Lucas Giolito. Ronaldo Lopez is probably the best of the bunch, mostly because Carlos Rodon can't stay healthy. But Lopez, a guy that has very thin margins because he's an extreme fly ball pitcher. If he gets a little bit home run happy, if that command drops off, he could have a very difficult season. So not really a big fan of this rotation. Don't really like the lineup all that much either. As you look at a team that traded Omar Narvaez, their catcher from last season, who in about half of a season's worth of plate appearances led the team in FWAR, which is Fangraphs' calculation of WAR. Eloy Jimenez, who will be coming up here sooner rather than later, actually the leader in projected FWAR according to the depth charts projections at Fangraphs, probably won't even start the season with the team. So another one of those situations like Toronto that we talked about last week where top prospect expected to be the team's most productive player won't even start the season with the team. Now, the bullpen did get a lot better for Chicago with Kelvin Herrera and Alex Colomé, but overall, not a fan of the White Sox here for this season. Would go under 75.5 and would consider that one of my stronger season win total plays here in the American League. Move on to the Cleveland Indians, 91-71 last year, season win total 90.5 here this year. Look, they have an elite starting rotation. It is the best in baseball. Full season of Shane Bieber will certainly help with that. I look at Carrasco, Bauer, and Clevenger as guys you want to consider from a Cy Young futures standpoint because, look, you know, Corey Kluber, the favorite right now out there in the plus 350 range. You can get Carrasco and Bauer in the 18 to 20 range, Clevenger in the 80 to 1 range. they're going to face bad offenses on the regular in this division. The Tigers are not a good offense, neither are the Royals. The Twins are pretty good. The White Sox are not. Those guys have the opportunity to pad their statistics, as I talked about in my AL Cy Young piece. So they're going to have the strikeouts. They'll have the chance at the wins. They'll have the chance at all the things that the voters look for. So those three guys, all of them worth a futures investment for you from a Cy Young standpoint. And also the Indians. Yes, I'm an Indians fan, as you can tell, but they are worth a World Series futures ticket as well. They're in the 16-1 range right now. Are they going to win the World Series? No, they're probably not going to. The Yankees, Red Sox, and Astros are all better than they are, but the Indians have a clear path to win this division, which would keep them from playing that one-game wildcard playoff, likely giving them a chance at at least 4 or 5 games there in the American League Division Series. Very easy to hedge at that point. So take the Indians at 16-1. They will be an underdog in any potential ALDS matchup unless something crazy happens from an injury standpoint. But it's a very easy hedge for you to guarantee some profit. So the Indians, from a World Series future standpoint, while they're not going to cash that jackpot 16-1, they will give you the opportunity to make a couple of units betting against them in the division series or in the ALCS, because they will be a clear underdog in both of those. Now, the lineup obviously has questions. They're very top-heavy with Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez. Lindor already dealing with an injury as well. But I'm actually more intrigued by this team than I was with last year's team. The outfield is talented. A lot of guys with minor league track records. No, maybe they haven't hit at the major league level, but the Indians are going to be much better defensively this season in the outfield. They won't have Melky Cabrera trotting around out there. Michael Brantley's a bad defensive outfielder. So in the corners, they'll be much better. They'll be a lot more versatile this season as well with the bench options and some of their platoon pieces and stuff like that. So I'm actually cautiously optimistic about the lineup. But really, for me, it comes down to the rotation for this team. It's the best in baseball. The division is very weak. The bullpen has some intriguing pieces behind Brad Hand, some guys that, from a matchup standpoint, should be very good, especially Tyler Olson and Oliver Perez. They're going to walk a ton as an offense. They're not going to give up a lot of walks as a pitching staff. They're going to have a lot of strikeouts as a pitching staff. This is still a very good baseball team, despite having a little bit of a lackluster offseason. They'll go over their season win total of 90.5. They'll go into the playoffs. They'll be a live team from a futures standpoint. Look, this is a team that plays 117 of its 162 games this year against teams that had a losing record last season. So, yes, public perception is down on the Indians. Yes, they've been knocked out in the first round each of the last 2 years. Yes, they're the fourth best team in the American League. But when you look at it from a win total standpoint, they play the teams in this division 76 times. That should give them 50 or so wins, a good head start to getting over that season win total of 90.5. Move on to the Detroit Tigers here, who were 64-98 last year. Their season win total 68.5 this year. I actually like this Tigers team a little bit. Certainly hope that Miguel Cabrera is healthy. Average exit velocity last year, 94.4 miles per hour, up from 91.3 in 2017. So was swinging a healthier bat before the injuries. Nick Castellanos is a good offensive piece. They have some intriguing guys, especially against lefties, further down the lineup. So the Tigers will be a spot play team when they're facing lefties, and in particular at home. Comerica Park is huge. Very spacious outfield. Been there more than a handful of times. It is very, very big. The park factor numbers are in agreement with that. Not a good home run hitter's park. The Tigers have a lot of fly ball pitchers in their rotation, guys that will have significant home road splits this season. They are a team that I am kind of intrigued by. Going over 68.5 could be a little bit tough if they don't stay healthy, but I do think that they have more upside than they're being given credit for here in the win total market. Kansas City Royals, 58-104 last year, 69.5 their season win total this year. A lot of that due to the optimistic PECOTA projection. PECOTA, as I've mentioned before on Bang the Book Radio and here on these videos, very dependent on defense. Well, the Royals defense took a big hit here this past week. Salvador Perez out for the season with Tommy John surgery. He's very good at throwing out runners. He's a decent pitch framer. Really the only guy in this lineup that had decent power as well. So the Royals really lose a lot without Salvador Perez, and the win total line has not adjusted at all, and I think it absolutely should. The Royals will be a fun team to watch. with Billy Hamilton, Terrence Gore, Chris Owings, Adalberto Mondesi, Whit Merrifield, they're going to steal a lot of bases. They're going to be very exciting to watch on the base paths. The problem is you can't steal first base. And they're not going to have a lot of guys that get on base very much. Whit Merrifield, the only guy in this lineup projected for a batting average over 250. They're a low on-base percentage team as well. You don't love the pitching staff a whole lot. Danny Duffy was a mechanical mess last year. Brad Keller hoping to stave off regression. I do like Jake Junis, but outside of that, don't like this pitching staff at all. The bullpen projects to be the worst in Major League Baseball. Not a fan of the Royals here. Under 69.5, definitely a look for me with Kansas City. Finally, in the American League Central, the Minnesota Twins, 78-84 last year. Their season win total here, 84.5. The only real challenger to the Indians in this division is the Twins. Offense much improved with Nelson Cruz, Marwin Gonzalez. A lot of people in the sabermetric community are buying stock in Max Kepler this year. You've got Jorge Polanco, Eddie Rosario, Jonathan Scope could hit a little bit this year. A lot of people like this offense, and deservedly so. They've added some very, very good pieces there. The pitching staff is the question. Will Jose Barrios take that next step? Will Kyle Gibson's strikeout gains stick around? Was Jake Odorizzi's second half with a 277 WOBA against legit? I think so. I think that with Josh Kalk in the front office and some of the numbers-savvy people that the Twins have added to the equation, I do think that there's a very good chance this team is in the hunt for that second wild card. Obviously, the season win total line would suggest that they will be there. I like this team quite a bit. And if the Indians run into a Lindor or a Ramirez long-term injury, that does make things much more interesting in the Central. I still think the Indians, who won this division by 13 games last year, won it by 20 plus in all the alternate standings metrics, they're still the team to beat by a pretty clear margin. But if injuries do pop up for the Indians, the Twins would be the team there hoping to chase them down. And I do like the Twins and think they will be a legitimate contender all season long for that second wild card spot. All right, we move on to the American League West here. The American League West also very top-heavy, much like the American League Central. You've got an Astros team here that last season 103-59, 96.5 their season win total. Last season, from a Pythagorean win-loss standpoint, the Astros were 109-53. They were a better team last year than the team that won the World Series in 2017. Yeah, they lost Marwin Gonzalez. They lost Dallas Keuchel. Lance McCullers had to have Tommy John surgery. And they lost Charlie Morton. But organizationally, this is one of the strongest teams in Major League Baseball. You've got a very, very good bullpen. They add Michael Brantley to the starting lineup. They replace their catching situation with Robinson Chirinos, who is a very good defensive catcher. They've got depth coming up. Forrest Whitley will be here soon. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez will both be here soon in the outfield. The Astros are a legit, complete team. There are no weaknesses for this ball club. They will win this division, and it wouldn't shock me at all if they go over their season win total of 96.5. But when you've got teams that are expected to be really, really good like this one, there's not a lot of margin for error in the win total market. Injuries could play a role. Last year, we saw Houston run into injuries. Jose Altuve missed time. Carlos Correa was never healthy. They still went over their season win total. I did play under 97.5, thinking that injuries could play a role and could sort of limit their margin for error. They still went over it and should have gone over it by a ton. So I learned my lesson last year. Will not go under this year, but still tough to play an over with a number that high. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, 80-82 last year, 83.5 their season win total. They're poised to waste another year of the prime of Mike Trout. New manager Brad Ausmus, don't like the hire at all. Had a decent offseason. They're gambling on Matt Harvey and Cody Allen on the pitching side. Picked up Trevor Cahill, got Justin Bohr. So this is a team that they're trying, but they've got some injury concerns in the starting rotation that are too much for me to overlook. Andrew Heaney, Tyler Skaggs. I wrote in my preview, which will get posted today at BangTheBook.com, I'd probably set the over-under on number of Angels starters to throw 150 innings at 1.5. They have a lot of injury concerns in this rotation. The bullpen's not particularly good either. Not really a huge fan of the Angels here for this season. That being said, I think their season win total probably right in the 83.5 range. The offense should be better with Zach Cozart hopefully healthy. Addition of Bohr, Justin Upton, and obviously best player in baseball, Mike Trout. But you can never play a season win total over with the Angels Because what if you get a Trout injury? Shohei Ohtani already out. A lot of concerns there for the Angels on the injury side. So no play for me on the season win total with them. Oakland A's. They went 97-65 last year. Season win total 83.5. There should be more believers in the Oakland A's. I love this season win total over. Probably my favorite play on the board in the American League. They have an elite bullpen. They have an above-average offense. And yeah, the rotation is scary as hell, but they're a five-and-fly type of rotation. This is probably a team that utilizes the opener concept here this year as well. The rotation doesn't have to do a whole lot. They just have to get this game to the middle innings, let the bullpen take over, and I love this lineup. I love the guys that are in it. Matt Chapman's an elite defender. Marcus Semion's really worked on his defense. The outfield defense is pretty good. They've got help coming from below for the starting rotation as well. You've got Jesus Luzardo, who will be up very, very soon. AJ Puk will be up soon. James Kaprelian should be here soon. Grant Holmes. All those guys could be in the rotation by the summer. Some of them certainly by August. The A's are a team I love this year. I expect them to win the second wild card over the Rays and the Twins. I love their season win total over 83.5. This team deserves a lot more respect than it is currently getting. The Seattle Mariners, 89-73 last year, but the biggest overachiever in baseball in Pythagorean win-loss. I believe they overachieved by 11 games last season. Their season win total 71.5 here because Jerry Dipoto saw the writing on the wall. The Mariners could not compete with the A's, could not compete with the Astros. They were a huge overachiever, so they trade James Paxton, they trade Edwin Diaz, they trade Robinson Cano. This team looks much different than it did last season. Now, I do kind of like what's left here, though. Mitch Haniger poised for a big year. Kyle Seager, potential bounce-back candidate. Love Domingo Santana finally getting a chance to play. I like Malik Smith quite a bit. And also the big thing about Malik Smith is that he allows the team to move D. Gordon back to the infield. He'll play second base again instead of toiling around in center field. The Mariners will be a much better defensive team across the map here this season. The starting rotation is not great. You've got Yusei Kikuchi, who comes over from Japan. We don't really know what to expect from him, although the early returns in spring training have been very, very positive. Rest of the rotation is a bunch of pitch-to-contact guys. Marco Gonzalez, Wade LeBlanc, Mike Leake, Felix Hernandez, all pitch-to-contact guys. Those guys tend to worry me, but this is a pretty good park to be a pitch-to-contact guy. I actually kind of like going against the grain a little bit here. Maybe looking at the Mariners to go over as a team that nobody has any expectations for. They've got a lot of guys with something to prove, with a chip on their shoulders this year. I kind of like teams like that because I think that they really do put forth their best efforts. The concern, obviously, will Jerry Dipoto make more moves as we get to the trade deadline, try to move some of these guys around, continue that retooling of the organization. That's what would worry me there with them. But I do think that they will be a lot better than people think this season. Finally, I know I went long with this video, so hopefully you've stuck it out. The Texas Rangers, 67-95 last year, 70.5 their season win total for this year. I don't like this team at all. I hate the offense. You got Shin-Soo Choo in his age 37 season, hoping that he's able to post another average or better weighted runs created plus. First time in 3 years he did that last year. Joey Gallo with the big power, but a lot of solo home runs coming from this lineup. As Asdrubal Cabrera, who signed for dirt cheap, may be the second best hitter on this team this year, but he'll be a trade candidate in the month of July. Jeff Mathis is a very good defensive catcher. That does help their projection a little bit. Nomar Mazara said to be working on his launch angle, but don't like anything really about this offense outside of a power guy like Gallo. And when you look at the rotation here, Mike Minor, who got injured as a starting pitcher, then was a reliever, now back to starting. You always worry about guys like that. Lance Lynn has a command issue and a big home run problem and walk problems as well. That doesn't play well in Texas. Then they're gambling on Drew Smyly, Edinson Volquez, and Shelby Miller, all guys who've missed significant time, not just last year, but really over the last 2 or 3 years. So that worries me quite a bit. The bullpen isn't bad. Jose Leclerc, pretty good. Jesse Chavez is solid. Maybe you get Matt Davidson as a two-way player, but this Rangers team looks like a bottom feeder to me. I think they are clearly the worst team in this division. Would look to go under 70.5 with them if I had to make any kind of play. But again, my MLB stuff getting posted here this afternoon over at BangTheBook.com, as well as a whole slew of conference tournament previews as long as we have odds for those. So keep an eye over there for that. I'm Adam Burke for BangTheBook.com.